Do we start with,
Yeah.
you start with the roll call.
Yes. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Plan Commission meeting of Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Harlow is absent. Commissioner Curry is absent. Commissioner Krillenberger.
Here.
Commissioner Jablonski.
Here.
Commissioner Cernovich.
Here.
Commissioner Willoughby.
Here.
Commissioner Fiasconi is absent. And Commissioner Moore.
Here.
And Chairman Cashman is absent.
As Chairman Cashman is absent and the commission requires a temporary chair for this meeting, would a commissioner be willing to make a motion to appoint a chairman pro tem?
Krillenberger so motions.
Second, Willoughby.
For Julie.
Oh, I hereby move to appoint Julie Cernovich as Chair Pro Tem for the August 14th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting.
That's what I meant to second.
I just put this here.
May we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Krillenberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski.
Aye.
Commissioner Cernovich.
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
She doesn't
Okay,
even
we'll get
pay
through
you for
this.
honor.
Okay, go Julie, this is it. Spotlight's on.
Okay, our next item is public comment for non-agenda items. Is there anyone here in the audience? Nope. Okay. That
Can
was easy
commissioners
enough.
make a
Sure.
motion? None today, thank you.
Okay.
But useful to know.
Okay. Okay, our next agenda item is approval of minutes from July 10th, 2024. Anybody have any comments?
None except for the compliment, nicely done by the,
Yes, always
Yeah.
nicely done.
But we did it. Agnes did a great job, so we got it.
Okay. So no questions, no comments, so we have a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th, 2024.
so moved, more.
Second, Jablonski.
Roll call?
Commissioner Krillenberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski.
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Chairperson Cernovich.
Aye. Item number 5 is scheduling of a public hearing. This will take place, there's no meeting in September, so this will be on October 9th, 2024. This will be case A-31-2024, a text amendment to the Hinsdale zoning code to create section 9-109, exterior lighting, and establish comprehensive lighting standards, request by the Village of Hinsdale.
Krillenberger so motions. Fiasconi?
Second, Willoughby.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Krillenberger.
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski.
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Chairperson Cernovich.
Aye. You happy? Are we moving along fast enough?
Great,
Okay.
you're doing great. Steve's in trouble.
Okay, agenda item number 6 is a sign permit review, case A-32-2024 for 18 West First Street, Carolyn and Company, installation of one wall sign. Is there anyone here? Okay.
Good evening, my name is Michelle Forey's on behalf of Apartment 12 Sign.
I don't
You
know
have
if
the
may
floor.
I use this, or I don't know if you had a hard copy, sorry.
Michelle, they have the packets in front of them too.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. The presentation is on behalf of Caroline and Company. Their wish is to replace the existing sign face in the existing wall cabinet that's there. It will be like for like in size. The sign will continue to be non-illuminated. The face that they are recommending will be an aluminum face with black vinyl background, white vinyl text, and it's in the design as shown in the packets before you.
Commissioners?
Yeah, the application, and I think it's actually the staff commentary, says that the sign reflects the business, and the sign says eyebrows and something else. Is that what they do? Do you know
That
what
is
their
correct.
actual?
They're an esthetician establishment, and
Okay.
Caroline and Company, Caroline is the owner.
Great. I have no further questions.
Great.
Jerry?
If you made it past the HPC, you made it past me.
Thank you.
Mark?
No, I think it's nice and clean. I think it looks good. So, I like it.
Anna?
No comment.
No questions or comments?
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah, she's very excited.
When's the business opening?
I believe she's currently open, or because she is friends with the prior owner, so they still have a working relationship, even though the prior owner's sign is still on there outside of the building. I believe they moved to the upstairs suite.
Great. Okay, motion to approve case A-32, 2024, a sign for Caroline and Company, 18 West First Street, installation of one wall sign.
So moved, Willoughby?
Krillenberger seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Krillenberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiasconi. Aye. Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Chairperson Cernovich.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now our big item of the evening is a public hearing. We don't have to open this again?
Correct, because we continued the public hearing, it's already open.
Okay. This is public hearing on case A-3-2024, landscaping and screening standards, text amendment to section 9-107, buffers and landscaping of the Hinsdale zoning ordinance. And I'm gonna ask Bethany if you could please give us a review,
Yep.
like of the revisions that were made from the last meeting.
I will do my best to go over the revisions since the last meeting that we had. The first revision was to change subsection AC, and we also found that there was inconsistent numbering, so we added some numbering, and that was to add headlight and glare and automobile exhaust references to the purpose section. We spent a lot of time behind the scenes going back and forth about the applicability section. That came up quite a bit throughout our discussion last month. And after waffling back and forth about the best way to do this and looking into some other codes, which were also in your packet if you wanted to see what they had done for triggering landscape applicability, what we've done to reduce any future conflicts is basically tie landscaping standards for when site plans are triggered. So anytime there would be a site plan review, we would be looking at landscaping. Still gives the Plan Commission and the Village Board the authority to, look at the alternative compliance, waive certain sections where needed, for both landscaping and screening. And then we did revise a section in the actual site plan review section to also add reconstruction to the parking lot pavement section. So I think right now it says any new parking lots or the expansion of parking lots. We've also added when there's reconstruction as well. And if you guys want to chime in or have any
And
questions.
that was
as
the
I go.
reconstruction that we said if it's gonna be, you've gotta get down to the gravel level, that
Right,
it's
so
not
it wouldn't
just a
be
skim
for
coat
general
thing.
maintenance
Yep.
or patchwork
Yep.
or, just sections of repaving. This would be pretty much a rebuild.
Okay,
Yep.
understood. Yep.
So just structurally, you have the overall applicability, and then each category, though, still has the applicability, like under building foundation, landscaping has applicability to start each section, so those are just kind of subordinate to the overall applicability.
Yes, so the overall section will now be governed still by the applicability for the site plan review. There are some sections in here, because I know there were some concerns about, is this gonna also apply to single family, two family situations? We wanted to add that in here. I went back and forth with our village attorney about some good language that he felt comfortable with too. And we just wanted to make sure that in cases, obviously with a planned development, there might be weird situations. But the overall intent is, if a straight subdivision came in where there isn't a planned development, or if it's just single-family homes, we don't want these to apply. Yep. So basically, anything in the R1 through R4, how our code is written, it wouldn't need to come into compliance.
Unless that's part of a PUD.
Unless it was part of a planned development, yep.
Okay.
So we tried to clean up the language for that. The next item that we reviewed is for berms. We had several conversations about berms. We changed the language to make sure that landscaping would be required on berms, so we wouldn't just have these bare berms. We added a recommended height, just because there might be cases like IBLP that we talked about where there could be a much taller height, but obviously that would have to come before with review at the Plan Commission and Village Board. But we added a recommended height of 4 feet, and then we did put some references to subject to engineering review.
That was helpful. I've, looking at some other codes, I saw that Oak Brook and Burr Ridge, I think they use a lot of berms. And so they were 48 inches, so 4 feet, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Good. There was a lot of discussion on minimum planting size, and I did speak with Chairperson Cernovich before the meeting. I had pulled information about, planting just in general at the time of planting. So shrubs at the time of planting, which we had in our code, was 18 to 24 inches. And I didn't put it in the packet. I know Chairperson Cernovich did look some codes up as well. And the general requirement for most municipalities for parking lot screening specifically was a range between 3 and 4 feet. So I know we might have a conversation at that, but right now we haven't changed anything in the code, but I think we'll probably discuss that. We can talk about it now, or we can wait as well.
I brought a copy for everybody too,
Okay.
Bethany, of what I found.
What you had sent before.
Yes.
Yes, so it looks like most perimeter landscape parking lot screening in most towns was 36 inches, and a couple did have, it looks like, 48.
Bethany, do you guys have one of these?
I have the emailed version of it, so
Both of you have?
yes,
Okay,
I can
good.
grab it after.
And I did send this to Steve too, so he's aware.
We added a new section about preferred plant list. If you guys remember, because of how long it takes us sometimes to update codes and how often, landscape species may be preferred or not, we decided to put 2 references in here for preferred resources. Chicago Botanical Garden and Morton Arboretum both maintain pretty good lists that are regularly updated, probably much more than what the village could possibly do. So that has been added for people to reference. We cleaned up that subsection. Oh,
Bethany, I don't mean to interrupt.
yeah, please.
And that is excluding the specific list that was in here, right? That replaces?
We still have the prohibited list. We just didn't want to provide a
Without a
preferred.
doubt, okay.
Yes,
So this
we
is,
didn't want
this
to.
is the, what
Yeah,
should be positively considered.
yes.
Okay.
They're much better at maintaining those lists. They regularly update them. So, if there's things that are no longer recommended, they're probably the best resource. We did update subsection C9. If you guys remember, we had looked into, there were some conflicting requirements about planting installations, and we cleaned up that language a little bit to make it a little more consistent and streamlined. We relocated the stormwater management provisions that used to be in the parking lot interior landscaping and made them general provisions. And then we did add some more general language in there that also, as we talked about, we don't want these, we don't want green infrastructure to be prohibited or discouraged, but so we added some language that actually encourages it and makes it so it can be a permitted encroachment, which of course would be subject to, in most cases, obviously, Plan Commission or Village Board approval, but basically so we didn't just limit it to parking lot landscape islands.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, thank you.
We updated the alternative compliance section. If you guys remember before, it had just talked about reference to landscaping. We wanted to make sure that screening was also in there in cases like dumpster enclosures. We did talk about, like, there are cases where in the downtown it might not be feasible, or there might be some other considerations. And then the other thing that was added here to the end of the alternative compliance, we added that if the property is owned by the Village of Hinsdale, not to get the village out of requirements, But when I did send this to our village engineering staff and parks department staff, there were some concerns about how some of these requirements might obviously create more design costs, more construction costs, and maintenance costs and our staffing abilities. So any projects that would come through, we just wanted to make sure that a village project might have some different compliance. And you can imagine that some of these requirements might not even fit in well with like a park setting, right? It might work in some cases, but it really doesn't make sense in others. Like think about KLM, for example. It might not make sense to do some of the, buffering requirements. We also added at the end of that alternative compliance section, just to reiterate that the applicant should really show why these requirements couldn't be accommodated on site, just to strengthen it, it can't just be, I don't want to. It really should have some real reasoning behind it. So we wanted to strengthen that. We did change some of the language. We had talked a lot about that transitional buffer language in subsection F4B. If you remember, there was some terminology in there that we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just like you could pick and choose one of the screening methods if it's commercial next to single-family residential. We wanted to make it more clear that this is your options that you're gonna choose a couple of, right? Or you might be able to choose one of it. It will depend on the situation, but it wasn't meant to just steer them for one option. Look at a combination. So we did strengthen some of the language in that section. There was some talk about the outdoor refuge, storage, and service areas section. And we had kind of talked about the applicability there and how it might work. We still have the applicability in those sections, just to reiterate that, no one with a single-family home is gonna have to provide a dumpster enclosure. And then we changed some of the language to soften it a little bit from what we had before. We did find some, after looking back, we found some additional cross-referencing that with our new code sections needed to be updated in other code sections, just so very easy. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the village attorney and other village departments did review this draft. So they've gotten the okay. And with that, I think that's overall most of the changes that were made. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know.
Bethany, I had a question about dumpsters. If a new business goes in and they're taking over somebody's dumpster, is there any way we could get them to screen the dumpster or clean it up, like especially in the historic district?
If someone was coming in with a site plan review or exterior appearance that might trigger a site plan, that would be our opportunity to do it. If someone's just moving in for occupancy, we wouldn't trigger a site plan right now, right? We'd hope that when they actually are putting money into those building improvements or site plan improvements, that's where we can bring people into compliance.
Because I'm thinking like on Garfield, like right around First Street, it just looks so bad.
Yes, that's a particularly challenging location.
So there's, nothing could be put in the new landscaping plan?
A good example that would have happened potentially if this has happened. If you remember, Performance Wealth Management came in and they did all those exterior changes a couple of years ago. That would have been a case where if they'd come in, we could have asked them for compliance or see if there was any feasibility with putting in an enclosure in the back. So cases like that are when we'll be trying to trigger some requirements.
With regards to the height of the screening and all of that we just talked about, or just kind of the document that you put out, what are we gonna do about that? Is that gonna be continued, or?
Chairperson Cernovich, would you want to talk about some of the research that you just passed around?
When I look at our vehicles nowadays are different. Everybody's driving an SUV or, I think the goal here for perimeter landscaping screening is to kind of hide the cars. And I think if you're doing it at 23 inches, it's not going to work. So I went ahead, I just looked at some other zoning codes, and you have the information in front of you. Most seem to be at 36 inches, and that was at planting. So it's not like you can plant at 23 and then go to 36, because that can take 2 years. Some communities even had 42 inches, 48 inches. And I found another some other sections of the code where they kind of phrase it a little bit better. I'll pass these out too. And again, Bethany has this information, Steve has this information, and this is something I did before I knew that I'd be taking Steve's seat tonight. I think it's, you know, you wanna screen that, anything unsightly. And my feeling is that we need to start with 36 inches. And I know there was concern that things are going to grow out of place, so maybe we can cap it. You know, 36 inches to 42 inches, and then somehow put in there plantings taller than 42 inches, you know, will not be allowed, or 48 inches. I was surprised, Western Springs was 48 inches. Some of the neighboring communities, I could not find this in their code, but Clarendon Hills, I couldn't open their code. And so I just tried to go to the communities where the research had been done on what they do for existing parking lots. So I would just like, I would prefer if it would be 36 inches.
I'll make a motion that we modify it to 36 inches.
At time of
Okay.
planting
At
for
time of
parking lot screening.
Thank you.
Is there a
And then
second?
we can look at capping
second.
the height, or maybe recommending
don't think
capping the
it's a
height.
motion.
I'd want to look a little bit further at our clear site triangle requirements as well, just to make sure there's no conflicts with other parts of the code. But, you know, we can also look at, just like what we did with berms, there may be unusual circumstances, so we could maybe even look at a recommendation of a capped height, but I would want to look at our site triangle requirements just to make sure that we don't put any conflicts in there as well.
And if you drive around town too, you can see, a lot of these parking lots, are with churches and they do a nice job. Some need some more landscaping. You know, Steve was concerned that schools are getting away from, you know, the
Yep.
higher landscaping, and I can understand that's a safety thing. But I think most people, and this would only apply to, public right-of-ways or streets.
Right.
And
Except alleys.
like the
I
front
think.
and the corner yard.
Okay.
So I like the language that I just passed out too, about the location of parking lot perimeter landscape. It shall apply to properties in all zoning districts in which parking facilities are located adjacent to the front or corner side lot line. I think that kind of explains it a little bit more. I have a copy for you, Bethany.
Okay.
But I sent this to you in an email
Yep.
too. I just think that, I wanted to only look at a few other codes, but then I kind of fell down a rabbit hole. You know, when these other things popped up.
Yeah.
I just think it kind of makes it better. But I think this is gonna be such a huge improvement, and I think it's gonna help on any applications that are in front of us, and I think it'll be easier for staff too.
Yeah, this is really good. Thanks for all the rewrite.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we had a really good conversation, I think, at the last meeting, and I think it's definitely made this code a lot better. So thank you guys also for the feedback. 'cause
Thank you
it-
guys.
It does have a good,
The only,
outcome.
the only question, I kind of asked it about the trees and stuff about our arborist. Would he be involved in the preferred plant list? And I know that, is he cool with doing the botanical gardens and the Morton Arboretum?
Yes.
He's on board with that too, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And the preferred plant list is more for, internal property, right? John Fennell, our arborist, would be picking the trees, obviously, in the right of way.
I understand.
But generally, when we get a big landscape plan, I will share it with John Fennell. He'll review it. I mean, most of the time, he trusts the landscape architect unless something's really egregious. But that's why, to go back to what Commissioner Fiasconi asked at the last meeting, is that's why you have some of these licensed architects, because hopefully they know what they're doing.
And speaking of the village forester, there was one thing, I wanted to see if we could add on page 3 of the draft. Existing vegetation, number 8. Whenever determined as practical by the community development director. I'm wondering if we could add and village forester.
Perfect.
So, two minds are better than one, right?
Is it an employee or a contractor?
John Fennell is an employee.
He's great.
He's really good.
He's,
He knows all about trees and arborvitaes.
Yes.
He shut down my demolition plan, so he's very good.
He's very good.
Scott, did you have anything else?
I don't. I think we're good. I just
Do I
want to
need
make
to
sure your
recuse
input
myself
was.
now?
No, I want to hear more about your ideas from last time.
Actually, my comments are only compliments. I feel heard.
Oh, good.
No, your amendments, I think, made this a workable document. And although, with all due respect, I don't agree with the specificity with which the height is being suggested, and that's okay. I think this is as Mr. Moore said, this is a great document that I hope will be encouraging to development and give guidance rather than be a impediment, which I had feared. So, only compliments. Good teamwork.
Mark?
Yeah, Anna first.
Oh, Anna, sorry. Okay.
Just on page 15, thanks for the addition. I know we had a discussion about the parking lot resurfacing and reconstruction. My one concern is the word maintenance. Just, I know people can take liberty with that word to the point where they could argue reconstruction is maintenance. So that, I don't know the exact language, but that would help clarify that exception. But I've made that argument before in some of the work I do, so I know people can take advantage of that language. So that's my only concern, especially when it's so important to win that argument if you're looking at the cost of a project.
Yep.
So,
We can look at an amendment to clarify that.
7:59 p.m.
So, would you suggest a phrase like within reason or as determined?
almost like
periodically by-
routine maintenance, something like that, where they're not going out and, reconstructions of once every, 10, 20-year type
Right.
thing versus routine maintenance, something along those lines,
I like
just to,
that.
Yeah.
to throw that word routine
Yep.
in it.
And we can always add something, like at the discretion of the community development
exactly.
director,
Yeah.
just to add some extra.
Anything else?
No, that's all I have. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for addressing. I like that addition on the stormwater too,
Good.
where,
Thank
on that one, actually, sorry, thanks for asking. The village approval that we defer to on the stormwater, is that staff approval? Is that, or are we purposely
We
vague?
purposely left it vague, just
Okay.
to, not to get around anything, but also just to have some flexibility
Right.
depending on the process.
Okay, that's what I assumed.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you, for example, if you wrote village board, it would have to go back to the village board,
Right.
right? Through
Yeah.
potentially a long process. So there could be cases where there might need to be tweaks. That's why we just left it at village approval.
Yeah.
And it may end up being the village board, and there could be cases where staff may want to make changes. Realistically, though, a change like something like that would go to Steve Cashman and Trustee Stifler as our ZPS chair to review.
Okay.
So if
Yeah.
anything was done administratively.
Right, but but it's as opposed to the default of it being a
Right.
variance or
Right.
anything like
Yep.
that. Okay, yep.
So if there's no change in grade and no change in, I don't know, pipage or whatever that
Yeah.
is, then it would
Yep.
be a staff thing.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Or a second or third review.
And nothing but thanks from me. I know how hard that is to write all that.
That's what I said, only more succinctly. Nicely said.
I had a couple things that I was wondering if they could be added, and again, these are things I picked up when I was looking at other zoning codes. Some required to show location of where snow storage should be for parking lots. rather than leave it up to the snow removal crew?
We did have a note in H1B, last sentence of that says, "The perimeter landscape buffer and screening shall be set back from the curb appropriately to accommodate snow storage." So it's referenced, but we could clean it up and make it clear like you're
Okay, I
suggesting,
think
so that's
it's,
fine. Yeah.
I know I've seen around town, like over the winters, there's some unusual places to store snow. And I think some places where you don't want to be damaging the vegetation
And it
the
gets
plantings.
missed way more than you think it should, so yes.
Right,
I think,
and also like for, you're talking about site triangles, I mean, some of these piles of snow, it's hard to see
Mm-hmm.
around. And one other thing that I saw was a working hose bib connected to an active water supply must be located within 100 feet of all perimeter landscape open space areas required to be maintained. I don't know how many of these have sprinkler systems or,
Thanks for bringing that up. I did have a question. For like woody species, is it like the first year or two that you're watering them to get them established, or is
typically
that?
that's correct, yeah.
So it's
really
a
once-
short-term need, I guess, is
Okay.
the point. That was the only thing of maybe having that requirement could be prohibitive
okay.
if it's a short-term need, so versus like the gator bags or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's true, the gator bag.
Yeah.
I know, like, when Union Church, when they did their landscaping, they didn't have an outside
A hose bag.
faucet, so they're using Nancy Cox's. So
Oh,
it's
right.
kind of, I mean, otherwise, dragging things over there. But I don't know, do most,
I do know we also have some businesses in town, including the Village of Hinsdale, that uses water trucks because they don't have irrigation installed. So they actually hire the companies to come out and water their landscaping. So we've seen it a couple of different ways. So if we add something about water, we might
Water,
want to keep
yeah.
it more flexible.
Or other
That'd be
available
great.
Or
water
other,
source.
yeah, other approved water sources.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
that would be great. Because I think Land Rover and the cul-de-sac, I think they lost some arborvitae a couple years ago because they weren't watered.
And I believe they, for a period of time at least, were having water trucks come in. Because they, I don't believe, have irrigation.
Right. But they just kind of let them go after plantings, and you think most people would know this, but you never know, right?
Do we need that in addition to maintenance? That seems like a subset of maintenance.
Yeah, I think we could look at adding some language that addresses maintenance and different ways to do it.
But we could have a requirement in the submission requirements that ask them to show us how they're gonna provide water to provide
be
the
good.
plants.
There,
Yeah.
yeah.
A plan.
That's a good idea,
for-
because having, I mean, depending on where the water faucet is, I mean, who wants to be dragging a hose 100 feet, if they don't have a sprinkler system or other means. And I found another language I like. Believe it or not, I like Bensonville's code. I was surprised. And it's the email I sent you, Bethany, that's the one about the continuous hedge. Does that make more sense than what's in the draft ordinance?
And this is for parking lot perimeter screening, correct?
Yes.
My only thought on that one is it is very specific.
Too specific?
Kinda might be, right? Since we're having landscape architects design it, and different plants have different requirements and everything else,
Okay.
this is a little specific to me.
And I will say, in the current code, because I was thinking about this, there is a requirement for continuous landscaping.
Yes.
Right? And obviously the maintenance of the screening height. And we did put an out in here in weird cases, right? Let's say we had like a foot or two of a buffer area. Maybe landscaping couldn't be there. We also put some possibility of a low wall or combinations, not just a hedge, to be less specific, I suppose.
Do you see a lot of places doing, like for parking lots, walls versus plantings.
Not often, just occasionally, but most of the time it's planting, because it's cheaper.
There. And I thought it was interesting, like, okay, in the draft, the berm could be 48 inches, right? But plantings could be 36. So that's why I think 36 is a good number to start with for plantings. I don't know how everybody thinks about this. I wish Steve was here, and I wish Laura was here, and Cynthia was here. I mean, how does everybody feel? Should we vote on this tonight or continue it till October?
Yeah, I think we're close enough. Let's vote on it. I miss those guys too. But, no, we're real close. Do you guys feel comfortable with the comments you've been given?
I will say, for the record, I got an email from Cynthia Curry before the meeting, and she was in support of increasing the perimeter landscape screening height for parking lots to the 36 inches. She was in support of that, and it sounds like she had watched the meeting from before and concurred with everyone's other comments as well.
That's enough for me.
And then to address Steve's concern of the schools, I mean, that can be dealt with on a case-by-case
With the alternative
basis.
compliance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and that's why the additional language on the discretion, I think, is very useful in those sort of situations, because schools are always different. Parking lots we've got some language in here, but every
Signs,
single
flagpoles.
situation is gonna be weird. And even the continuous hedge, there's gonna be some situations where we need a path through the Rose of Sharon. So,
To get to the faucet.
I think Rose
To
of
get to the
Sharon,
faucet.
I think Rose of Sharons are banned.
they are not.
Are they? Is that one thing that?
I don't think so.
Okay, I must have
I
seen that
wouldn't
somewhere
Oh, sorry, I
else.
didn't,
Okay, that's a joke, that's a
Oh,
joke,
okay.
okay.
you got me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go ahead. I mean, I'm kind of a stickler for governance, and if you're not here, you don't vote. If you
Okay.
really cared, you'd find a way to be
Okay.
there.
Well, it's useful to have Cynthia's comments too,
Yeah,
and
no, we have
Steve's,
that,
and,
yeah.
Right,
yeah, so they're participating in their own way, and we're here.
And I might not be here in October, and people.
I will not be here in
oh,
October.
dear,
there you
you
go.
have to be here for the lighting. You're,
they'll
you're
work
the
it
one
with
who
the
knows all the,
Well, I'm going to be here, but
Lumens.
Things
okay.
happen. I
But
could get
things
hit by
hit
a
right.
bus. Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, so,
Let's
Than
look
you
too
think.
for
I
the-
might get hit by an e-bike. Wait till
You
we
will
do that one.
incorporate these ideas
Absolutely.
tonight into this?
Yes.
course.
And then is there another review, or what are we doing here?
If you continue this to the October meeting, we could have one more review, or you can recommend it move forward to the village board with these changes. I can, of course, also make these changes. I'll send you guys another copy. If someone, has an issue before we send it to the board, you can obviously let me know ahead of time. And I'm happy to also make sure there were because we didn't know Steve Cashman and Chairman Cashman wouldn't be here, I can double check with him and make sure there's no egregious issues before it goes to the board
And
as
then you
well.
have your findings and recommendations.
Yes, and
for
we
this
still have the
as well.
It'll all
findings
be
to come back.
baked in.
Right.
So there's still time before the village board if Chairman Cashman has any issues, I can speak with
Say
him.
we vote on it.
Then
Okay.
that leads me to say, let's vote.
And
And
back
keep
to
it
the
moving.
schools, I was thinking about the schools, but if you think about it, every church has a school too. So it gets to be,
I have,
so case by case.
I have strong confidence in this plan commission and future plan commissions, going back to the original plan commission, that we will give adequate consideration under the premises of this language to exert the wisdom that needs to be exerted on specific circumstances. And I realize that you've got you're next to a church that has a school, and that's your residence. And hopefully, this language will satisfy you as a resident, as representative of other residences next to schools, churches. I hope they do. But yeah, we gotta trust the plan commissions.
Right, well, I think that's something that the Board of Trustees would waive, right? Not the Plan Commission?
If there is like school
Well, if there's any
landscaping-
changes, special circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get the last word, but hopefully our view is weighed, given that we are deliberative body, and there's a reason for our existence. So I love the guidance without stranglehold, and I think that's what we've achieved.
Yeah, and going back to that landscaping requirement for schools, there is a safety consideration in the alternative compliance section. So, I mean, school districts do have a lot of requirements that, you know, we don't weigh in on a lot of the time because they're just required. I was talking to a school the other day, and there's a new requirement on labeling signage on certain doors, right? And, you know, at the end of the day, it's what the school districts are gonna require. And they can bring that consideration forward of now schools don't want big shrubs for people to hide between, you know? And that's something that can always be weighed here and then
Okay.
approved by the village board.
And we all know the reason for that. We don't want people hiding behind the big shrubs, clearly.
Completely separately.
So Bethany, I think that we're leading toward a vote here, I hope. Do you have a running list of things that are potential adjustments, subject
Yes.
tos?
Would you like me to summarize them? We could just summarize them.
be great.
Make sure I have everything. Okay. So on page 3 of the code in subsection C, 8, I believe, we were gonna add, for existing vegetation, determine practical, add the village forester for review. I'm just gonna, I might not be going on these in order, so stop me if you think I missed anything. For the parking lot perimeter landscape screening on page 9, we were gonna look at a couple of the changes that Chairperson Cernovich suggested of cleaning up some of this language and changing the screening height to a minimum planting at time of planting to the 36 inches. We can look at, like I said, maybe a recommended height, capping height, site triangle requirements, just to make sure that there's no issues, but if you guys feel comfortable, we can come back and.
Yeah, I'd actually love for that to be a recommended rather than, the language at the front of this that says these are all minimum requirements still sort of makes me nervous. I love the 36 being in the code, which is almost a de facto standard, but with language like recommended at 36 inches with adjustments as necessary for circumstances.
I disagree with you. I think we have to have a minimum.
Plants grow.
Well, that's how we could cap it.
I have no comment.
I just think if you say recommend, you're gonna get, all the other codes I was reading, they said minimum. That was the language they used.
I give up.
Please don't give up.
No, here's my whole thing. I love the flexibility. I think if
Right.
you put 36 in there, people are gonna read it and they're going, oh, recommended, schmecommended.
She knows how to spell
Like that a lot?
It's 36. There's gotta be a doggone good reason for them not to have 36 inches. But there might be doggone good reasons. So, I want there to be flexibility,
Not arguing against you, but playing devil's advocate here.
please.
I think that's an exception. And I think that the way this is constructed, we would have the ability to grant that exception with the language that Bethany mentioned a few minutes ago about how they have to declare the reason and strengthen that language in it. Then I can get comfortable with having a minimum.
And that's pervasive. That's an overall provision, right? Anything in here, 36, could be 24, if you have a good reason.
Yep.
But
Or
you-
a reason, a reasonable reason.
But now, that reason has to come before us and be articulated to us with the reason why. Not just, we want 24 because we want it. And, oh, by the way, we're gonna sneak it by you. It has to be articulated, it has to be shown to us, and then it has to be argued as to why it's relevant.
I appreciate you started with your playing devil's advocate. I could say the same thing about 36 being relatively arbitrary. And I know other communities have 36, but why not 24? Why not 48? I'm with you. I do, give up's not the right word, I'm sorry I used it. But I don't like definitive things that don't have a reason. Like, is that knee high? Is that the size of headlights? That was an interesting argument. I don't know why we have 36. Maybe there's a good reason for it, but
And I would jump in on the recommended versus minimum. When it comes to measurements and, you know, things like this, I would go with minimum, in part because then it's easier just to enforce, to look at and say, you know, this is 36 inches, or if a 1 foot plant shows up out there and every one of them, just because that's what the nursery stock is selling on sale that day. You know, I just personally, I like a minimum to check against, and I think it makes it easier for village staff at the time that is being implemented, not to get into a debate of, well, it says recommended and it looks like this sparse vegetation that's not meeting the intent of what the ordinance is from day one. So that's my vote for, I mean, I like 36 too, but vote versus recommended versus minimum. I think it sets that baseline that's easier to enforce.
and we all have yardsticks.
Yeah.
So this is gonna work out.
Yes,
great.
exactly.
Well, but the village, they'll be out checking. I think the code too, I think the zoning codes need to be specific.
It's goal in 1, 36 inches. I'm with you. Let's make the first down.
How are we doing on time, Jim? Oh, my God. How are we doing on time?
I would love to finish.
Okay.
Back to your summary.
We are almost done.
Now back to Bethany.
Okay, one of the next requirements was on, or changes will be on page 15 in that site plan review section. We'll change the word maintenance to routine maintenance and possibly look at putting at the discretion of the community development director, just to clarify, so there aren't as many loopholes. We were gonna add for the landscaping requirements to show the proposed storage areas for snow in parking lots as a requirement. We were gonna clean up, I'm jumping back now to the parking lot perimeter landscaping, look at that applicability, or the beginning section where it talks about where it would apply. Chairperson Cernovich had recommended cleaning up that language to really kind of hone in on front or corner side lot lines and right-of-ways excluding alleys. So we'll mess with some of that language a little bit. We were going to look at for possibly in the submission requirements showing how people provide water. So there could be various ways, but adding the means to do it. And did I miss anything else?
I just thought of one more thing. I don't know, we've touched base on this. For parking garages, what are the requirements for landscaping?
Yes, there would. I believe if you go to page 11 of the code, there is a,
Oh, I see here, okay.
yes, there's a separate section for parking garage design. And I believe the requirements actually also apply. That's just for the design.
I'm seeing it shows the exterior surface of the garage.
But then we have all the,
That's the
yeah,
existing.
that's existing, yeah.
Do we need to put something about, like, I recall when the parking garage, the parking deck went up with 181 of the Village of Hinsdale, there were certain requirements for the landscaping. Do we need requirements?
Yeah, I think we originally anticipated, but this section has changed a bit. The whole subsection H is called parking lots and garages. I don't know if we meant to be, if we lost some of the language throughout here, but we can look at adding some specifics for.
It should, so.
It should.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. You know, so it's not just a building, something to soften the outside. A nice buffer, kind of like what's in town now. I know we don't see too many parking garages, but you never know,
Just in case.
just in case.
Did we miss anything else?
I think it looks really good, thank you.
Thank you. I think this is gonna be a great document. I'm excited for the village board to review it, and I think we've gotten some really good comments, so thank you guys.
I think it'll be great. And one quick question, and the lighting that we're doing in October,
Yes,
is that going to be kind of a similar process on what we're doing here, and will that all?
Correct.
Okay,
for that one, we will have Ames Engineering who helped draft that code here to help explain anything. The referral from the village board last night did take place, and they had recommended that the plan commission look at a couple of items. So those will be in the next packet. The meeting was yesterday, so we didn't have enough time to put that summary together, but it will be very similar.
right. Because
So,
I
yeah.
think this process was good, and I think you guys have done a great job, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And not to belabor the lighting point, but that will also apply to commercial rather than the residential. The material in the package appeared to me to be of wider applicability than just commercial.
The lighting is a little bit different in how we set it up, because there are certain sections, and now we're getting to different whole topic, but
Oh,
there
yeah,
are
sorry,
certain
Ellen.
sections where, there would be certain lighting that in the case of a nuisance, right? If, so for example, if you had a single-family home, there could possibly be means for us to do something about it, right? If your neighbor has searchlights all over the place, we might want to get involved. And like you just running the Batman symbol all over, But otherwise, we wouldn't put them through a photometric review, right? So there could be cases where we might want to intervene, but not put them through a review,
Understood.
more for
Thank you.
nuisance situations. Yep.
Anything else? So will this be a motion to approve, Bethany?
A motion to recommend approval to the
To
village
recommend
board.
approval.
And then I would put subject to the comments provided by the plan commission
Okay.
tonight.
Okay, could I please have a motion to approve case A-3-2024 landscaping and screening standards, text amendment to section 9-107, buffers and landscaping of the Hinsdale zoning ordinance, subject to the changes discussed tonight, or it,
Yep.
okay, changes discussed at tonight's meeting.
So moved, Willoughby.
Do we,
Krillenberger seconds.
Bethany, do we need
Yeah.
to close the public hearing?
We will, we can after,
Okay.
we'll do it next.
Oh, thank you, okay.
Yep. Okay, so I had Willoughby motioned, Krillenberger seconded.
Sorry.
No, it's good clarifying question. Commissioner Krillenberger,
There was a particular order to that.
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski,
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby,
Aye.
Commissioner Fiasconi, Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Chairperson Cernovich.
Aye.
Okay. And now we can do a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing for case A-3-2024 landscaping and screening standards, text amendment to section 9-107, buffers and landscaping of the Hinsdale zoning ordinance?
So moved, Jablonski.
Seconded more.
Commissioner Krillenberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Jablonski?
Aye.
Commissioner Willoughby?
Aye.
Commissioner Fiasconi? Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
Chairperson Cernovich.
Aye. Then a motion to adjourn?
Krillenberger, so motion.
Okay.
Second, Jablonski. Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.